just getting ready to do some work in my car, and I want to cover a couple of things first before I get started, and that is around safety. Just please be very careful when you're working on cars, especially, you know, there's just lots of areas that can cause problems. One thing you want to make sure is, you know, never depend upon your jack to hold up a vehicle. Get you some jack stands. Get you a wheel chock to hold the front and the back tires. I use one. You know, if you want to use multiple, that's certainly area for safety. You know, hearing protection, especially if you certainly want eye protection as well at all times, and gloves. I use these nitrates throwaways, and I'll usually put another pair on with them just to. All right, I want to show you how I replaced the quick strut on my 2005 Honda Element. So I'm sorry I forgot to start this before I started taking it apart, but basically all you gotta do is take off the outer tie rod, and then these two bolts that hold in, that come into the knuckle, and then these two there's two bolts on these clamps here that when the brake line fluid are coming in, and then the ABS, if your car has ABS on it. So there's two little bolts there. So and then there's three bolts on the top of the strut that bolt into here. Now, of course, you don't have to do this. A lot of people, you can just replace the strut itself, but you know, it's just quicker and easier for me to do the whole thing, so that's what I chose to do. All right, I'll show you here now how you get ready to put it back together, and you just know that taking it apart, just start the other way around. All right. All right, so here is the new strut, and again, it's got where you put in the use my toe since I'm trying to hold this thing up. You know, where you put in the outer tie rod goes there, and you have the two bolts that go into the knuckle here. And then here's the two little small clamps that hold in the brake line and the ABS switch. So that's about it. And then here's the three that go in up through the top of the fender well. All right, so I'm by myself, so I'm going to have to put it up in there by myself. Thing weighs about 30 pounds. So I'll get back to you here shortly. Alrighty, I've got the strut in place. Really all I've done at this point is I kind of set it on this metal part of my axle here. Don't put it on the boot, because you certainly don't want to damage this boot, okay? So I just kind of rested it there. Then I came up here and could kind of see if it was going to line up properly, and it was. And there's a little marker on here on the top. It says L for left, and it's pointing out, and on that side, on the passenger side, it'd be R for pointing out that way. So you just want to make sure. But I don't think, if it does, then you have to, if it's not lined up right, then you have to kind of rotate that top plate to get it correctly. But anyway, I held it up with one hand underneath the car, and I used my other hand to loosely tighten, put in these bolts here, kind of thing. So that's kind of where I don't tighten them up yet. You want to get your knuckle back on. And I don't know if I can be able to do any of this one-handed or not, but anyway, it's going to go in something like that. Okay, and then of course this will, your tie rod will go in there, and this guy will bolt on up here, and this one will bolt on down here, and then you're pretty much done. So that's the great thing about the quick strut is unbolt these things, slap it out, slap the new one in. Of course, it's going to cost you more because you got to buy all the extra hardware here, but that's kind of well, I guess what you should buy is the spring itself. Possibly, I don't know what all would come with if you bought just the strut itself, but I don't like dealing with things under pressure, so I go this route, but it makes it a lot easier for you. All right, so let me get this all lined up and started back together, and I'll be right back with you. All right, we're all back together, and hopefully don't have any problems. And I guess the other question comes up is, do you need a front end alignment after this? And I would say probably yes, but that's entirely up to you.
In theory, nothing on the tie rod stuff should change distances. Depending upon how worn your shock was, yeah, you know, you're certainly going to get a different force on your tire down here, just because this would now be where it should be. So in theory, you know, you probably should get one, but I'll leave that entirely up to you folks. All right, talk a little bit about torque settings. The tie rod, he goes in at 32 foot-pound, and that is an 18 millimeter. The knuckle is a 116 foot-pound, and it'll be a 19 millimeter on this side, and I think this is a 21 on this side. The brake line goes in at a 16 pound, and then the ABS, if you happen to have that, is a 7 foot-pound. So those are fairly small, like a, I don't know, 12 and a 10 millimeter. The guys up here on top, these three, they get a 33 foot-pound on them, and they are a 15 millimeter. So after all that, you're kind of done. Time to put the wheel on and see what happens. Thank you very much. Got any questions, please let me know.